Tonight it's the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. We're going to talk about WWE's Night of Champions from this past Sunday night. Some interesting comments on the Pro Wrestling Report radio show from Hurricane Helms. This is one you certainly don't want to miss. Also, we announced some upcoming guests for the Pro Wrestling Report radio show. We're going to do the weekend review. We go in-depth on Wade Barrett, hot news, viewer mail, top 5, and everything else. This is the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time.
And now, celebrating 13 years on the air, this is the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time with David Hero, Frank Cosentino, Linda Kay, the man they call Meathead, and Damian Nelson. All the latest from World Wrestling Entertainment, total nonstop action wrestling, and more. This is the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. Damian Nelson here along with David Octavius Hero. David, how are you today?
I'm fabulous.
Coming off the heels of just a couple days ago.
You're not going to congratulate me?
What'd you do?
Be the booker? Top segment of all time?
That's later.
Vegas made lots of money?
That's just in a few moments. But first, let me show some stuff.
Okay, show
Coming off the heels of this past Wednesday's ESPN radio show, where our guest was Hurricane Helms, who had a lot of very intriguing things to say.
Colorful language?
Yeah, to say the very least. And if you have not heard that interview yet, you can get it right now. It's exclusively available on our iTunes application.
He just changed his finishing move also.
Did?
Yes.
What is it
It's
now?
now called the F-bomb.
Hurricane Helms, thank you very much for coming on the program this past Wednesday. As a matter of fact, we'll be announcing later on, if you didn't tune into the radio show this past Wednesday, some guests for some upcoming weeks as well on the Pro Wrestling Report on ESPN Radio. But David Hero, it is time for our top story. And our top story is the results of WWE's Night of Champions pay-per-view just this past Sunday in suburban Chicago, Illinois. I was there live in attendance.
And you only bought, what, a dozen Miz t-shirts?
How about the rest?
There's only a dozen left?
I don't know, the rest, because they had sold out at so many locations. I had to literally travel all the way around the arena to find the Hello, I'm Awesome shirts.
Wow. And I want to say thank you for getting one for Cal. He has yet to take that shirt off.
WWE Night of Champions this past Sunday on pay-per-view. We did do a complete wrap-up from the arena this past Sunday night, but however, now we have the chance to get the booker's perspective, the man who booked the show, at least for the purposes of the PWR, last Friday on our episode.
For the purposes of EPO.
Entertainment purposes only.
Yes.
David Hero, let's talk about it. The Intercontinental Championship was on the line as Dolph Ziggler defended successfully against Kofi Kingston.
I thought it was a great match for Dolph. I mean, he finally gets a solid win, a clean win, a strong win over a strong opponent, which can only enhance him now to take on that next top babyface on SmackDown.
Match was given quite a bit of time. It was the opening matchup.
They got screwed last time.
Yeah.
They had to give him something, right?
It's almost like they didn't have a match last time.
Right.
Dolph Ziggler's still the Intercontinental Champion. What's next for Dolph?
Whatever Vicky wants him to do.
Excuse her.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Bryan took on The Miz for the United States Championship. You had selected Daniel Bryan to win this matchup, and that would end up being the case.
He was tapping, wasn't he?
Daniel Bryan Danielson.
Daniel Bryan Danielson. You know what? We've got to get that name to stick.
Maybe we'll share it with him when he's in town this week. He's going to be in Milwaukee on Sunday.
Are we going?
Yeah, of course we are.
Is he Daniel Bryan Danielson?
For Dragon Gate USA, absolutely.
You're not going to be all salty and bitter towards him?
I got nothing against him. Ultimately, he just went in there and did his job.
No, The Miz did his job. J.O.B.
Circle the green marker.
And it was, wasn't it? Because I knew it was going to happen.
You familiar with Paul Abdul?
Straight up.
2 steps forward.
And then 2 steps back.
But sometimes you have to step backwards to move forward. He is a future world or WWE champion, as evidenced by that Money in the Bank briefcase that he carries around. There are no worries.
He had his chance.
I'm not. You see me sweating? I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm not worried at all. The Miz is going to be okay. You can keep trying to make a big deal out of it, trying to push my buttons here, but he's going to be great. He's going to be fine. He is greatness. He is awesomeness, and he will push forward.
You've changed. Damian Nelson, you've changed. Look how upset you're getting about this.
I didn't get upset. I just made
You're
it.
getting hot. If you're hot, say you're hot.
Well, since you want to take all this credit for picking Brian to win that matchup,
Yes.
you also said something would happen at the end of the night that didn't quite go that way.
And you know why it didn't go that way?
Here we go. You spin me
No.
right round,
First of
baby,
all-
right round like an aeroplane.
After we talked about it on Friday night on
Mhm.
Primetime,
Mm-hmm. You mean after we taped it last Thursday
Well-
and it aired on Friday?
all the sheets started to report it, didn't they?
NJR.
And JR. So why would Vince want to give me more credit to try to save his company? He changed it.
You talk about the sheets. Can you clear something up? Are we a dirt sheet?
Not at all.
Hogan's been talking about it. Helms talked about it on the
We are
radio
not,
show.
We're not a sheet. We are opinionists and journalists. Because we don't tell the people what's going to happen 2 or 3 weeks from now.
Right.
We explain why things happen 2 to 3 weeks from now. Big
And
difference.
And set you on the right course for some of that erroneous stuff that does get put out there. Actually, who else was it? Sheldon Benjamin.
When was the
lashing out at a
last
couple of wrestling
time?
websites.
When was the last time we reported something that wasn't true? Right?
It's a great question.
It hasn't not happened.
Enough about us. Notice how I turned it around and got away from talking about that matchup. Score. The World Heavyweight Championship was on the line as Kane defended his belt against The Undertaker, and he did so successfully and cleanly in Chicago's All-State Arena.
Well, he's now just barely out of that vegetative state he's in. So, of course, Kane has to win to go into a rematch at Hell in a Cell. I was happy for Kane. Nice win. Kind of puts that notch in his bedpost kind of deal for being world champion.
You sure it's his bedpost?
What else you want to call it? His tombstone?
Right, you sure that's where the notch is going?
Or on his belt, one of the two.
All right, well, the Divas Undefined Women's Championship was also on the line, as Michelle McCool defended the championship against Melina and did so successfully.
You know, I wonder what would have happened if Michelle McCool wasn't married to The Undertaker and Dave Bautista was still on Raw with Melina. I wonder who would have won then. Triple H's buddy's girl or the Taker's wife? It's amazing how politics play
And
out
it's
in
a
the back.
shame. It really is a shame.
But that's just my opinion.
You're just saying.
I'm just saying. I don't know. Right?
Well, I think the thing is right there. You know, it was a Lumberjills match. Natalia was at ringside along with several others. Layla getting somewhat involved
Gail
in the matchup
Kim.
as well. The match overall, while it wasn't very long, it certainly wasn't a bad match at all.
It wasn't good either. It was. That's why you have the Lumberjills out there for all the distractions.
Finally, it was a six-pack challenge for the WWE Championship. It was Randy Orton, Edge, Chris Jericho, John Cena, Wade Barrett, and Randy Orton. Sheamus, the WWE Champion going in,
So close.
but would not be coming out. Chris Jericho, 1 minute, 30 seconds out.
Yeah, well, that's how quick the Hart Dynasty lost in their 5-pack match. What do they do with Jericho? That was the best way for him to lose.
Really?
Yeah, why not?
Why so?
Because it's nice and quick and surprising, and it's like
They sold it after it
They
happened.
sold it great. It's like, wow, there's Jericho.
We would see that progress on Monday Night Raw as he would suffer another loss and question his need to be in WWE. You know, I really like what they're doing with Jericho. I like where this Jericho thing is going because Jericho's a person who can bring you in emotionally to whatever's going on with him.
Because he tells a story. How many of those guys
Much
can
like
tell a
Daniel
story?
Bryan and The Miz did in their matchup.
Daniel
Match of the
Bryan,
night. You failed to
Danielson.
give that kind of credit to The Miz.
First of all, if you rewind to last week's Primetime,
This is this week.
didn't I say?
You said it might be, but we're reviewing your booking of the show.
Well, okay, it was match of the night.
Such passion, such feeling behind that. Do you
I
pick
mean
up on
it.
that?
I do. Daniel Bryan Danielson, he's a star. Nothing better than Daniel Bryan Danielson's smirk. When he's in there, he can be serious, not serious, but there's always that smirk, and you gotta love a guy that can smirk like that.
Well, the WWE Championship would go to Randy Orton, who won that matchup.
The guy that doesn't need the title has the title.
At least it wasn't Cena? If it wasn't going to be Sheamus, at least it wasn't Cena? Would you agree or disagree? There was a lot of Cena hate in the All-State
because
arena.
Cena has to go on with this program with Nexus now, so he doesn't need the belt for that.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? They could have put it on. They could have put it on Wade Barrett. It wouldn't have been bad. But Sheamus needed.
Really, Wade Barrett?
Yeah, I could have seen that.
Not too fast, too soon?
No. Come.
Not too fast, too furious?
Look at how quick Randy Orton got the belt when how young he was.
Well, it was just a slam at Brock Lesnar.
That's fine. But the thing is, Sheamus needed that win over Randy Orton more than anyone else in that match, because it gives Sheamus finally a main event clean victory over a top star, which he has yet to have.
And the main event, the headlining matchup, was for the WWE Unified Tag Team Championship belts. It was the Hart Dynasty going up against several teams, including the team of Drew McIntyre and dashing Cody Rhodes. Ladies and gentlemen, David Hero is pleased to announce the results of that matchup.
The Hart Dynasty lost the belts.
Two?
Well,
Don't say the Usos.
Well, they lost to the Usos.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then
The winners and the new Justin Roberts is hitting that almost as good as Finkel now, by the way.
Is
The
he?
new tag team champions are
Cody and Drew. But I told you why. Nobody else wanted those new big belts to carry him around. They figured Cody already has the mirror in his bag. What's another?
It's not in his bag, it's on its back.
What's the difference? Okay, what's on his back goes in the bag eventually. All right. So what's another 20 pounds in your bag? And Drew, I mean, I like Drew McIntyre. He looks like a star. He's tall. He's got a good look. And there's the other guy. Hey,
What you gonna do when you come face to face with Cody?
I'll shake his hand and say, "Congratulations, champ." Well, what is he gonna do when he comes face to face with me? I'm 6'5".
Probably just gonna say thanks, pal.
Yeah, thanks, pal. Exactly. The fact of the matter is this:
That is.
he is back in the tag teams again.
But he's a champion. Trojan or not.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm not going there anymore about the Trojans on the belts.
That was WWE Night of Champions this past Sunday night on pay-per-view. And now let's go to the not just lovely but also talented Linda Kay.
Now it's time for our viewer mail. The first comes from Cameron from Australia. Cameron says, "Hey guys, now that Randy Orton is the new WWE champion, where would you like to see WWE go with the storyline? I would like to see Morrison get a push to the main event like what they did to Sheamus. Where do you think they should go now?" Now it's time to go over to our analysts, Damian Nelson and Cody Rhodes.
Thank you, Linda, and Australia, David Hero. Cameron, down in Australia.
I love Australia. I have a lot of family in Australia. You know, we gotta, take a trip. We either gotta go to the UK or Australia.
I vote for the UK. It's a shorter distance.
But Australia,
It's a long way. It's 24 hours of travel.
they have kangaroos.
I have no patience.
Okay, well, we'll go to both.
Randy Orton, the new WWE champion, where should it go? Would it be Morrison going into a
There's
role
no
similar like
way.
Sheamus, or where should they go now?
Morrison goes with Randy Orton, he gets buried right away. The real feud should be Orton and Nexus, or Orton and Cena against
Orton and
Nexus.
really?
Yes. 6-on-2.
That way it won't be so odd when Orton smiles.
You liked that, didn't
I
you?
hated it. It didn't.
He's pandering to the fans. You know, some would say Randy Orton is not a true heel anymore.
Anymore.
I'm just saying.
All right, well, Cameron, I would say that I'm not sure how intrigued I am about what's next with Randy Orton, to be honest with you.
Well,
You look at where Orton's been this year all year long. He went through that feud with Cody and Ted DiBiase, WrestleMania. From there, didn't really do much. Turned face, sort of, kind of, not really.
Why wouldn't DiBiase go after Randy Orton
Right.
now?
Oh, he's too busy with R-Truth.
Why wouldn't Ted DiBiase go after Randy Orton right
How
now?
bad does Eve have it right now? She's got to dance to hip-hop.
It's a good thing she's beautiful. Yeah. She's stuck nowhere right now. She puts her fists up in the air. She waves like she just don't care. And
Now, Orton, of course, has won the WWE Championship. Let's not forget that. But at the same time, name any time this year that you've really cared about what Randy
they
Orton was
have
about.
not built up any strong heels for Randy Orton. Who, Edge?
Right.
Boring.
Oh, he's too busy fighting with the laptop.
Yeah. Jericho?
Can't win a
Uninterested.
match.
You know who they should bring over?
Who dat?
As much as I would hate to see it,
Dashing! Dashing!
no.
Dashing!
No. Alberto Del Rio.
Mm.
I think him and Randy Orton could have some great matches together.
All right. Okay.
You don't like it?
No. But remember, we had a very intense discussion about this on the radio show a couple of weeks
But
ago. About
Del
how-
Rio grew a foot in the last few weeks, so he's like 6'5" now. Okay, Randy Orton's like 6'4". I think it could be a great match.
grew a foot in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Wow. This is a no spin zone, dude.
I'm not spinning nothing, amigo.
You spun. The web. Thank you for that email, Cameron, down in Australia. Let's go now to this week's Top 5.
It's time for this week's Top 5. I'm the man they call Meathead, bringing you this week's Top 5. Brought to you by the man they call Meathead. That's right. Once again, I have sponsored my own segment. Can I say the man they call Meathead one more time? I just did. Stop talking. Number 5.
I didn't talk, technically.
Move the card. Number 5 is... Just kidding. Number 5 on my top 5 will be Caitlyn. You know, there was a lot of controversy over who Vicky Guerrero's NXT rookie was going to be. You know, she got taken off the show. But, you know, this Caitlyn has got the look, I think, and is, you know, won a challenge. She also, you know, can move a little bit. So Caitlyn, number 5 in this week's top 5. Number 4, Amazing Red. Unfortunately for Jay Lethal, who had the belt for, about a minute. Amazing Red is the new X Division champion as of this taping. Number 4, Amazing Red. Number 3, he's never been on any of my top 5s before. He has finally made it. Finally, The Miz is number 3 on my top 5. You know what? He's got amazing heat right now, and he can go places. I don't want him to be the champion, but he's got a chance to go places. Number 2 is the man that beat him in Chicago at the Night of Champions, Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, whichever you're going with. Daniel Bryan, the new United States champion, and number 1 on the top 5 list, CM Punk. Crazy Mariachi Punk is number 1 on the top 5. That sport coat with the wrestling boots, phenomenal. Ding.
Well, David, it's time to go in depth. You miss AJ Styles and Beer Money?
I do miss AJ Styles and Beer Money. It doesn't feel like anything about those guys.
This week we're going to go in depth and talk about the short-lived career of Wade Barrett, whose name is actually Stuart Alexander Bennett.
Yes.
Stuart Alexander Bennett.
I think Wade.
Call him Steve for
I
short.
think Wade's a little bit easier to spell.
Wade and Barrett.
Yeah.
Well, he became a wrestler at the age of 21, trained by a good friend of yours, Al Snow, and made his debut in 2004, formerly known as Stu Sanders. That was with NWA Hammerlock Wrestling. Also performed for other organizations and had a program with Seamus O'Shaughnessy. Seamus. Did you say it?
Sheamus?
Sheamus! And over in London, across the pond, he won WWE NXT Season 1, as we well know, and he is now the leader of Nexus.
Who picked him to win NXT
You did.
Season 1? I did.
And who'd you pick in Season 2?
Cabal.
Oh, Husky Harris.
Who should have won? But he sacrificed his opportunity for Cody Rhodes.
And now 2 months in a row, Wade Barrett has been in the headlining main event for 2 WWE pay-per-view events. Now, David Hero, all the way back to the NXT Season 1, you said Wade Barrett was the guy, he was the star, he was the winner. Explain a little bit about what makes Wade Barrett that guy.
Well, first of all, he has the size. He's a legit 6'4", 6'5".
He hasn't grown a week in a month? I'm sorry, a foot in a month?
No, not at all. He's always been tall. He's got a great look. He's a good-looking guy. He's got great hair, and he can speak.
He's got a flower on his lapel, sort of like Dr.
He
Who.
can speak. He can talk. Out of everyone in Nexus, he's the only one that's allowed to talk.
Come
He's
on
the
now. Tarver talks every now and again.
Really?
I didn't say it was good.
Does he talk?
Every now and again.
Okay.
Barrett's certainly the standout
He
speaker.
is the leader of Nexus, and when Nexus is done and over with, whenever that may be, he will still be a star on Monday Night Raw.
Wrestling skills?
He's trained by Al Snow.
I don't like his finisher.
Name a good finisher right now.
Airborne. The skull-crushing finale.
You said Airborne first.
I did.
That's impressive.
I never compared The Miz and Nevermore.
That's right. But there aren't many good finishers out there. I mean, the attitude adjustment, really?
Yeah, lame.
Even the RKO.
Lame.
It's a diamond cutter.
For those of us that saw the Diamond Cutter back in the day.
Diamond
they know what
Cutter.
it was.
Yes.
For today's wrestling fan, they don't necessarily make that relation.
No.
Wade Barrett, I did not agree that on NXT Season 1 there was anything special about him. Aside from having a look and...
Great luck. Look who was with him, Jericho. Jericho groomed the guy.
But you sort of thought Otunga was going to be the one because it made more, let's say, business sense. And what I mean by that is you can,
they
ride the
already
coattails of Jennifer
have
Hudson.
one reality TV star.
And he is on his way to becoming WWE champion.
My God.
Your neck okay?
No, that stresses me out when you talk like that.
You don't think it's going to happen? You still say Miz will cash in Money in the Bank and be the first person to not win the title as a result of that?
Yes. Yes.
Is that EPO or DHHS?
That's a DHHS.
That's what I was hoping
moment.
for. So we shall mark the tape. September 24, 2010.
Yes.
The day you were wrong.
If you want to.
Wade Barrett down the road.
What are you going to do when he loses?
He won't, so what do I have to worry about that for?
You're going to be stuck
Wade
with all
Barrett-
those T-shirts.
Wade Barrett down the road. eBay. Wade Barrett down the road. After this Nexus thing is done, if that happens anytime in the near future, can Wade Barrett stand alone without the Nexus behind him?
Absolutely.
As what? Wade Barrett?
As Wade Barrett.
Okay.
He may form a tag team with somebody else. You know what? Him and Sheamus could be a great team together. But it likely won't happen.
No. Well, Wade Barrett, this week's subject of our in-depth segment, and we want to make sure to remind you that coming up next week we'll be doing another Be the Booker segment for WWE's Hell in the
There's
Cell
another
pay-per-view.
next week.
Just 2 weeks from the last one, and then the week after, we'll be doing that for Bound for Glory as well. Speaking of Bound for Glory, David, coming into Bound for Glory, in 2 weeks' time, we welcome a guest to the 540 ESPN radio show. A guest who hasn't been with us in about 2 years. He was hot about it when we were setting this all up. Jeff Jarrett returns to the Pro Wrestling Report. He is the master of the TNA live events and obviously a
He's the
focal
founder.
point. Exactly, focal point of TNA
King of the
and
Mountain.
Bound for Glory. He will be with us in 2 weeks' time on 540 ESPN. But then, David Hero, things are a little interesting the next week because we'll have a guest who has not joined us ever before on this program. And it's a man you, since February 12, 2010 of this year, have been really talking a lot about.
I've been honest. I haven't been wrong.
But you haven't. You also haven't been pimping.
I'm a Ken Anderson guy, okay? So you draw that line in the sand. Either you're with Ken Anderson or you're with the Pope.
Who will be our guest in
did you
2
notice?
weeks' time?
I
3
drew
weeks'
the
time.
line right here.
Right down the
Ken
middle.
Anderson, Pope. Here's the line. Look where you are. Ken's not going to be pleased when he hears about this.
Well, it all depends on how you spin it.
I'm going to be honest.
Right. Honest as you see it. The Pope will
My
be our
vision.
guest in 3 weeks'
My
time.
vision.
Right after Bound for Glory on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. That should be an interesting show, to say the least. And speaking of interesting, let's see what our fans out there across the world have to say. And Linda Kay's got another viewer mail.
Now it's time for some more viewer mail. Second comes from Xavier from Rhode Island. Xavier says, if Nexus doesn't disband like the rumors are saying, what are the odds of Triple H teaming up with the New Age Outlaws one last time against the Nexus? I think for 1 or 2 shows, it would be a great nostalgia type of match for the fans. Let's take it back over to our analysts, David Hero and the Pope, Damian De Niro.
Thank you, Linda. Pink.
You gotta love Pink, right?
Pretty in Pink? Is that
Absolutely.
a song about it? Like to hear it?
I thought it was a movie. Molly Ringwald. That's before your time.
Triple H teaming with the New Age Outlaws.
It was great.
Was.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Unfortunately, no, it's not going to happen. You know
I
why
just
it's
don't
not
see a
going to
scenario where
happen?
that's going to happen.
Here's why it's not going to happen. When Road Dogg was fired from the WWF back then, or
Mhm.
the E, Triple H walks up and says, I guess the Armstrong curse is for real.
Wow.
Yeah. I can tell you, BG Road Dogg James has not forgotten that conversation.
Nor really.
And I don't think Billy Gunn and Triple H get along either.
You don't think? I think he's been fairly vocal about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, Xavier, I don't see a chance of that happening, but whether or not, I mean, the other part of that is Nexus going to disband? What do you see happening? We don't have to book it necessarily, but what do you see happening at Hell in the Cell? John Cena has to join Nexus if Wade Barrett defeats him, and if John Cena defeats Wade Barrett, Nexus is disbanded, including the armband.
Why don't we wait till next week? Because I don't want to go into all this detail to do it all again next week. Let the people think about it. I know what's going to happen in my mind. It's going to be interesting.
Hot news just last night, TNA in New York City, not to be confused with Frank's hot news coming up later, TNA in New York City at the Hammerstein Ballroom, brand new X Division champion crowned, David.
Amazing.
And it's red.
Yeah.
So, let me get this straight.
Poor Jay Lethal.
Wins the title, what was it, last week on Impact?
Yeah.
Loses it a week later at a house show while Impact is airing? Something's amiss.
No, Abyss wasn't on that show, was he?
I said amiss.
Oh.
I don't understand the big deal about TNA being in the Hammerstein. They've been making a pretty big deal about it.
Because they're going to probably have a great house.
Yeah. Yes. Sure.
Jay Lethal, if you're listening, go back to the Macho Man gimmick or the Ric Flair gimmick. Because it's not working just as you as Jay Lethal.
Or should be somebody else.
Yeah.
Do a little Roddy Piper.
That will be great.
Yes.
He needs to go back to that. Because you know what?
Just don't paint yourself halfway.
He lost all the steam.
Oh, God.
And I
Oh,
like
God.
Jay Lethal. I think he's a great kid.
Yeah, great
You
talent.
guys smoked hookah together.
Great
The
talent.
real hookah.
Yeah,
not
thank
like
you.
that
Thanks,
funky
pal.
green stuff.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
you weren't green.
Appreciate it. Never tried that funky green stuff before in my life.
I'm proud of you.
So yeah, new X Division champion crowned last night, TNA Wrestling. Thank you, Xavier, for that email. Now let's go into the week in review. David Hero, this week WWE RAW was an interesting show, and I say interesting because I'm surprised at how few people watched it. They only scored their lowest rating in the last 2 years to WWE this past Monday night on Raw.
Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football, yes, they're not going to fare very well next Monday night as the Packers and the Bears go
Packers
head
and
to
the
head,
Bears.
and that is a taped Raw where the information will be out there. I'm not sure how much of an impact that will have, because I'm not sure if most of the audience will realize that it's taped or care about the difference between taped and live. But we saw some noteworthy things happen on Raw this past Monday night. Firstly, Daniel Bryan Danielson getting owned by The Miz and Alex Riley. And The Miz has secured the personal services
people
of Alex Riley.
It took 2 of them to do it. And The Miz had to get his heat back because they didn't give him time on the pay-per-view to get his heat back.
You know, we talked about the pay-per-view earlier. It became somewhat clear to me that there was an error in the booking on your part and WWE's part when The Miz didn't speak at all Sunday night.
Who spoke besides CM Punk?
But The Miz always speaks.
Did anybody speak
No.
besides? Okay. And the only reason why CM Punk spoke was because he had to try to get some heel heat because it was his hometown.
And it didn't work at all.
Of course it wouldn't work. It's the big show.
Obviously, we're looking at a match being made for Hell in the Cell or perhaps even the Survivor Series with Daniel Bryan and The Miz. This is one storyline, though, that I am intrigued to see continue, not just because I'm a Miz marquee, but just because it really has some meaning behind it, which is rare in WWE stories nowadays.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the meaning behind it?
You sort of, I mean, this goes all the way back to NXT.
Mm-hmm.
There's been build, there's history there.
They've been since what? February, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Miz was his coach. Bryan gets fired, he comes back. I mean, I think the story's been pretty good, pretty intriguing. I'm not done with it yet.
No, it has a little bit more to go. I'm sure it'll wrap up by December, going into the Royal Rumble. Ooh, imagine if The Miz won the Rumble and still has the briefcase. He could wrestle for both
And
world
then
titles
they
that
get
night.
unified. David Hurley, you may have just stumbled onto something.
Well, no, because Vince won't use it.
But there's been a lot of talk that the titles may get unified at WrestleMania.
They should be.
They've already unified the tag, they've
They
unified
should,
the
you know
women's.
why? Because no one's gonna watch SmackDown on Sci-Fi.
Really?
Not at all.
Wow.
There's too many other good shows on.
Not on Friday nights.
The 10th season of Smallville starts right now, and honestly, I'm a little hot.
That's
that
just
I'm
been on
missing
10
it.
years?
Yes.
Wow.
Lana Lang.
You know, I
Lane.
auditioned for the Lex Luthor part.
I
It's a
believe
pigmentation issue.
they couldn't use a green screen and fix things up.
By far the best part of Raw this past Monday night was Michael Cole.
No,
The Miz sits down at the broadcast table.
Oh,
My
maybe
opinion.
maybe that part for you.
Yes.
Okay.
And he's marking out big time for the Miz. He whips out a WWE magazine. Miz, can you sign this for me?
Yeah, but then he goes and he buries.
Miz signs it. That was before. Miz signs it. Cole goes, I'm never getting rid of this. It was just great stuff. I like Michael Cole.
That's fine, but he tore apart the
Did
best young
he do it,
tag-
or did
Yeah.
the situation do it?
The Jersey Shore has nothing to do with Raw right now. Okay? Michael Cole took advantage of those two kids.
But should they have been put into that situation? Tyson Kidd. and
I'm
the
sure they
H-Man.
were put there to be tested, and they failed miserably. Which now they look so ridiculous, it'll be hard for the fans to want to get behind them now.
Got another match tonight on SmackDown. Rematch from Night of Champions.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't fare so well.
Cody cheated.
You said on this very program just a little while back, win if you can, lose if you must, always cheat, right?
I have no problem with that, but I'm just pointing out he didn't win clean.
Also, a huge return on SmackDown tonight.
Amazing.
If you have not yet watched SmackDown, this is a bit of a spoiler. Getting involved in the Undertaker and Kane situation on WWE SmackDown, and seemingly aligning himself with the Undertaker. Paul Bearer
He
back
brought
on
the
WWE.
urn.
The urn is back. Paul Bearer is
Amazing.
back. And you know what?
He's half the man he used to be.
Absolutely. And also, I think it really adds another dimension to this feud. A feud that might have gotten stale without him.
Yeah, just
It's
don't
been
bring
going on for about a minute.
I'm glad Paul Bearer's back. I think he's a big part of it. I wonder if he turns on Taker in the end, which would be great. But
Back to 1996 we go.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Paul Bearer back on SmackDown tonight on your television screen. And we'll see what happens next week. And I think it's good leading into the debut on Sci-Fi. You say nobody's going to watch it, but there are rumors that maybe some talent is going to be hopping over
That's
to
fine.
Sci-Fi
Hop
from
up,
WWE
hop
RAW.
over all they want. Who's going to find Sci-Fi?
They find it for NXT.
Barely.
That's true.
Barely.
0.86 this week.
Ugh.
It's a low rating.
You know why? Because they've watched the show, this show. They know that I picked Maxine to win. No reason to keep watching.
Well, what if Naomi wins?
I picked Maxine to win,
You also picked Tusky Harris.
and he should have won. Politics.
We talked about Michael Cole earlier, WWE NXT. This past Tuesday night, Michael Cole returns after his fill-in was named as CM Punk.
Did you like that?
I like the sport.
I thought Punk was very entertaining.
Is he undervalued, underestimated, underutilized
Not
on the
at all.
microphone?
Not at all. Because he gets the mic a lot. Every week
Yeah.
he's on the microphone.
Absolutely. All of a sudden, it seems like CM Punk is back in the forefront on WWE television. Why the back and forth? I mean, he's two-time champion.
He's obviously out of the doghouse.
Is there such a thing?
Oh, there's a doghouse.
A lot of people out there say there's not a doghouse.
Ask Matt Hardy about the doghouse.
Hopefully, we'll get that changed too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully. Well, as we said last week on Impact as well, brand new X Division champion crowned. Apparently that point a bit moot now because Amazing Red is now the X Division champion. When's the last time we've seen Amazing Red on TV?
Why? Why Amazing Red? Please explain that to
To
me.
satisfy the crowd in the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Because he's from New York, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So they let Jay Lethal, who's from New Jersey,
Elizabeth, well, it's for Savage.
right?
But yeah, he's from Jersey.
Come on, it's the same thing.
There's a swamp and a bridge and a tunnel between the two at least.
That's fine, but still, Jay Lethal.
Former X Division champion.
A guy who was in a program with Ric Flair and beat Ric Flair
Yeah.
does the job to Amazing Red. Not saying Amazing Red is not talented,
He's an amazingly talented
But-
person. But who is
but-
Amazing Red? Because we haven't seen him in weeks.
but if you invest the time into having a guy work with Ric Flair, get some money out of it. Just saying.
As you do so well.
Welcome back to the 10 Best. This time we're doing WCW moments number 7 in the 10 Best WCW moments, January 4th, 1999. Granted, it may not be a best, but it was very hot. People were excited to see the rematch, Goldberg versus Kevin Nash. Goldberg coming off of being defeated and losing his amazing winning streak to Kevin Nash due to a taser, little disco inferno, and Scott Hall interference at Starrcade. Well, all throughout the night, Goldberg being questioned and taken down to the police station due to aggravated stalking of Miss Elizabeth. Well, nothing but a work. Hulk Hogan shows up out of nowhere, hasn't been on TV in about a minute, and out of nowhere, they say, you know what, Goldberg's in jail. How about a Hogan-Kevin Nash match? This is also, folks, if you don't know, this is also right around the time of the, yeah, that'll put butts in the seats, Mick Foley winning the championship on Raw controversy as well. So not only did people jump over to watch Foley win the championship on WWF Monday Night Raw, or Raw is War, they jumped back to watch Hogan versus Nash. After Nash pushes Hogan in the corner, tries to, bully him around, Hogan pokes his finger in Nash's chest, and the bump of all bumps! Nash goes down, 1, 2, 3, new WCW Heavyweight Champion of the World, the finger poke of doom. Or as we call it in the TV business, that's when WCW jumped the shark. Number 7, WCW 10 Best Moments, January 4th, 1999. And check out the video, by the way, pwrshow.com if you haven't done so already. The finger poke of doom.
This week's fan is David Martinez of San Diego, California. David says, I agree with Undertaker and Cena, then have The Miz come out and face The Undertaker. But if that happens, will that count as a loss for The Undertaker? Let's go back to the team.
David Martinez from San Diego, California. David Hero, you actually spoke about this on a recent episode of this program, whether it's going to be The Undertaker and Cena at WrestleMania 27. And if so, if The Undertaker then wins or loses, The Miz comes in, cashes in, walks out the champion, would it count as a loss for The Undertaker?
Will never happen. Do you honestly think if the Taker is going to lay down at WrestleMania, it's going to be for The Miz? A 3-letter word? There is no way. No way.
But the question that's being asked is not will he lay down?
Yes, it
but
would be
would
considered a loss. He would
It
lose
would?
at WrestleMania. Yes.
after winning at WrestleMania.
Yes. There is no way.
Or how about your argument? He wins, it gets cashed in. He wins again, he gets up to 20-0. Will it count twice?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now that would be entertaining for me.
Really?
Because then Taker can retire at 20-0.
Last time we saw something so bizarre at a WrestleMania had to be, was it WrestleMania 9?
With Hogan and Yoko?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Brett won the title, or Brett lost the title to Yoko. Hogan comes out with from that jet skiing accident, black eye.
And here's Bret Hart wiping the salt out of his eyes, telling Hogan, go get him, go get. Don't tell him to go get your belt. Who does that?
He had salt in his eyes, Dave. It's the last time we saw that, by the way. The powder or the salt. I think it was Sergeant Slaughter in China back in the late 90s, early 2000s. They were handcuffed at ringside on some match. Slaughter was the commissioner.
Now, wouldn't that be called an international object in WCW?
Yes. Only when Miss Standards and Means was around, though.
Standards and practices.
Standards and practices, yes.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, WrestleMania is not very far away. However, it is very far away. And a lot of speculation on who that match with The Undertaker is going to be. How do you do a Cena-Undertaker match, you know? Who's good, who's bad? Do you do good versus good? Undertaker, I think, would prevail in that scenario, but can The Miz wait till WrestleMania to cash in? He speculated earlier. Maybe he wins the Rumble.
Or what you do is Cena wins the Rumble.
We're good.
You know, and along the way he wins another title over somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But before
Elimination
then,
Chamber.
he challenges The Undertaker,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's title versus title.
The ultimate match.
The
right
ultimate-
now.
Yeah. And then Taker can retire unified champion at 19-0.
Why do I feel so strongly that you have to get to 20? 19 means nothing. Nobody's ever going to beat 10.
Oh yeah.
Really? 10-0 in Mania? Somebody else will do it? 15-0?
What's John Cena right now at
I don't
WrestleMania?
know. How many has he been in?
I don't know.
Well, that's
So
how many
we'll
he's
find
won.
out. But
What are you looking at down there?
there's a lot of stuff going on down there.
We'll be back with you again next week with another new edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. We'll be presenting Be the Booker for WWE's Hell in the Cell pay-per-view.
HIAC.
They say the. Many say That's going to be next week on demand at pwrshow.com, and also be sure to check in to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN Radio. That's going to be Wednesday night at 11 Eastern, 10 Central this week. Wednesday night. Sorry, Dave, I know it's late,
It is late.
but Brewers and football schedule really wreaks a havoc on our schedule. But ESPN Radio so graciously giving us time still to have the show during the week. So thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time, and we will see you again next week.